friends and colleagues. And first of all, Happy New Year to all of you. 2020 is here, and so far it looks like it's going to be a great year. Assignments are coming in, and the schedule is getting full, at least for the first half of the year. So I anticipate this will be a great year. And just because it is a great year doesn't mean that we should not do some housekeeping that it's advisable to do at the beginning of every single year. Most of you hopefully already did it, but if you haven't, I think you're still on time to do certain things that should be taken care of every year. Number one, you should clean your client list. And cleaning up your client list means to really take a long and hard look at all those clients that you had last year and throughout the last few years and decide who you really want to keep as your regular client and who you do not. And that's very important to do at the beginning of the year because you should make a plan for the next 12 months or now that we're already in February for the next 11 months. The first thing I would do, and that I do as a matter of fact, is that I look at my clients and I start putting them in different categories to see who I can get rid of. Obviously, the first ones that to me are problematic and that I could get rid of without thinking about it twice are those clients that pay very little or those that pay late. So if you are dragging people that pay very little or companies that pay late, this is the time of the year when you should get rid of those clients. Secondly, I would get rid also, after getting rid of that first group, on second place, I would get rid of those clients that are very, very difficult and that doesn't look attractive to me to keep them in my agenda just because they might have some interesting stuff to offer because they are very difficult. And I'm talking about those people that call you all the time, that never provide you the information that you need, that the documents come in late or they don't come in, and that they disrespect you. So I could get also rid of these clients. Obviously, I could get rid of the agencies with the goal of really working as a true professional, just like a lawyer or like a physician, and therefore trying to work only with direct clients, which is what I do. So get rid of all those agencies that call you or email you and they tell you, hey, we need an interpreter tomorrow or next week. Are you available for a 2-hour assignment and stuff like that? You don't need that. You don't need to work with them, and that time can be better spent looking for and catering to your more valuable direct clients. So I could do that. Now, nothing wrong on keeping some agencies as long as you work with them as direct clients. I'm talking about that agency that has a client that will work with you once a year. That's no problem because they are being treated by you as direct clients. But I'm talking about those agencies that are constantly calling you, offering you really unattractive, low paying jobs, or that they are very annoying and they don't want you to disclose to your client or to the person that you're providing the services that you're an independent contractor and the no compete clause and all that stuff. So get rid of them as well. Now, once that you do that and you made up your mind, the next step is how to get rid of them. Well, the first thing I would do is I would send a letter at the beginning of the year, and you're still on time, to your very good clients, wishing them a happy new year and telling them that you're reiterating your commitment of excellency and to work with them and provide them the best possible job. Tell them that you are willing to work with them under just about any circumstance and that you would love for them to tell you when are they tentatively scheduling their events that will require interpretation this year so that you can start penciling them in and saving those dates for them. Now, this doesn't have to be firm commitments at this point. It doesn't have to be the exact dates, but it will help me to know that X or Y or Z client will require of my services in September because from February I will be very careful with what I schedule in September, and that will give me an opportunity to later on during the year follow up and ask them, well, what happened here? And they will keep you present also because we're talking about the good direct clients that value you and they will feel the pressure to put their commitment in firm as soon as possible because they don't want to lose you for that service either. So I would start by doing that. Next, I would look at my clients that provide me regular assignments every year. twice a year, three times a year, once a month, and I could give them preference, but also I could look at my agenda and see those direct clients that use my service biannually or every 4 years or every 3 years or every 5 years, because that's when they have the big events that require interpreting. And if this is their year, I could get in touch with them also at the beginning of the year to start penciling in dates for them. Once that you do that, you are left with those clients that you do not want to keep. And the cleaning up process would go like this. I could not send them a letter telling them, you know what, I don't want to work with you anymore unless you definitely don't ever want to hear from them because they don't pay, because they pay late, because they're disrespectful, because they are very difficult. Then I would do it. But for the most part, what I would suggest is you just don't send them any letter telling them, hey, let's work together this year. And when they contact you, you just let them know what your fees are. You let them know what your availability are, knowing that they will not be willing to pay under those new circumstances, under those new payment terms. And that way, you will not have to tell them bye, but they will naturally move away from you. Also, you don't close the door because you never know on a rainy day. It just happens that an event that you were going to do for whatever reason, national security, the world economy, etc., gets postponed or canceled. Well, you may want to work with one of these if it's not that awful, but it's not good enough to be on your top tier of clientele. So that's what I would do. Once that I clean up the house and I just keep the clients that is worth keeping, the next thing I have to think of is what are going to be my fees for this year. And I do advise you to review and change your professional fees once a year. It's not a good idea to do it 2 or 3 times a year. It's not a good idea to do it erratically at different times of the year. And it is not a good idea to never raise them because you're afraid of losing the client. Once a year, it's acceptable. The beginning of the year is customary. Uh, Everything goes up every year, and everything usually goes up at the beginning of the year. Your cable TV bill goes up. Your healthcare bill goes up. Your car insurance bill goes up. So this is the time of the year when you should notify your good clients what the new professional fees for this year will be. Now, I'm not talking about the expenses. That the client will understand if last month they paid so much for an airfare and this month they have to pay more because they know that's not for you. They know that that doesn't depend on you. That depends on the airline or the hotel group or the rent a car or whatever it may be the case. I'm not talking about the per diem because they know that if you follow the official per diem of your country, that this will be adjusted to the cost of living by the government. I'm talking about the professional fees that you charge as an interpreter that often include some expenses that are not quantifiable separately. The time you spend studying, the electric bill or the phone bill that you use when you're doing your research, and so on. Now, raise them your bill once a year. Let them know, I would say, a good 35 to 60 days ahead of time. In this case, because we're already in 2020, I could send them a letter or an email saying something like, starting March 1st or starting May 1st, my fees, be advised that my fees will go up 10% or will go up to so much for half a day and so much for a full day of an assignment. And that way they will know ahead of time. You can explain to them that it is because everything else is getting a little bit more expensive for you. Now, please pay attention to what I'm saying. I am not asking you to just raise your fees to adjust them to the cost of living of 2020. I'm asking you to also give yourself a raise because you need to get a raise at least once a year. Otherwise, you are going nowhere professionally. So include there some moderate raise for you. So I don't know, if you raise your fees 5%, that would be good to cover the cost of living in most countries, and that could give you a good increase also on the money that you take home. But do it that way once a year, letting your client know and tell them from the beginning, starting that this date, I will charge so much for half a day, I will charge so much for a full day, and for every time that is beyond 6 or 7 hours, depending on your region of the world where you work, I will charge so much for my overtime. And this is important. I would tell them in increments of an hour. I hate those increments of 15 minutes or in increments of half an hour. Hey, just do it on increments of an hour. If you have good clients, and we're talking about these good direct clients, they're not going to argue with you for a little bit more money that represents a few more minutes. And it's much easier for your bookkeeping, and it's much easier for them to understand that if they went past the regularly agreed time, it's going to cost them so much for 1 hour, so much for two, etc. So that's a very important thing to do. And finally, this is the time of the year when you should also sit down and make a plan about the conferences and trainings that you will attend, both for you to train as an interpreter and also those conferences or other events that you will attend to try to get new direct clients. This is the time of the year to do it. This is when you have the flexibility to plan it ahead of time. Maybe put two cities or two countries on the same trip, on the same month, on the same week, so that you are not away from your business that long. This is a time when your airplane tickets and train tickets could be cheaper because you're buying them way ahead of time. And this is a time of the year when, after you talk to your good clients, and if you were planning on attending an event in September, and September has to be set aside for the good client, then you better start looking for Plan B. That is the event that you will attend in May or in June. Those are the three things that we need to do at the beginning of the year. Even though the year is getting busier, the assignments are coming in, I think it's worth your time to find the time to do and plan these three things. That will help you a lot, and you will see a much better professional job in this 2020. At least that is my opinion. Thank you.